Spoilers from my webcomic? It's more likely than you think. Hey peeps, today I want to talk about spoilers, specifically spoiling your own webcomic a little bit. Spoiling the story or different elements of your comic, why we avoid it, why we do it, and how it's sometimes actually beneficial. First, I want to talk a little about what I'm drawing. Right now on the screen, I'm just finishing up the cover to the next story, which is called Casting Shadows, The Alchemist Collective Casting Shadows, and it's just a little speed paint, nothing too fancy. Is it a spoiler? I don't know. Maybe. So what is spoiling, quote unquote? So for me, I'm going to give you like a quick definition that I had thought up. It's revealing or exposing an element of a story before it can be experienced firsthand. Usually this used to come in the form of someone just telling you what happens beforehand, like a story or a movie or something, or a book. But you can also, unwillingly or not, spoil yourself by reading posts, going into spoil tags, or casually perusing social media, like just, oh, I just saw that and now I can unsee it and now I know what happens. I actually almost got spoiled for Spider-Verse 2 on the train once just by a complete stranger just because my headphones were out and I was overhearing different conversations. Luckily, I just tuned it out, so it didn't happen, but it can happen to you at any time, anywhere. So how do I feel about spoilers? So for certain things, I like to experience them fresh, like a game or a TV show if it's something that's ongoing. I used to be a lot more adverse to spoilers than I am these days, and I think a lot of what that has to do with is the way I choose media or how excited I am for it. There's just so much media out there nowadays that like I don't particularly care anymore. After a while, especially like for example the Marvel movies, after a while I just didn't care what was happening. It all just kind of blended into one movie for me, so I just kind of stopped caring about what happened or whether or not people spoiled it for me. I didn't care. But yeah, it's that kind of a thing. It depends on how you feel about it and what the thing is and whether or not you're looking forward to it or not. Like I said, my last thing, I was saying how I was almost spoiled for Spider-Verse 2 because I really wanted to see it because I cared about the story. So I guess it just depends on who you are and how much stock you take in spoilers. So what does that have to do with spoiling your own webcomic? So when you're making a long form comic, you're often making it, and I'm saying long form because that's what I make. I don't make gag comics or one-off comics. I make an ongoing story. So I'm speaking in terms of that and not like gag-a-day comics because that's a little different. I don't think you have to worry much about spoilers unless you're worried about spoiling a punchline or something or a certain situation. But most comics these days are updating as the artist is creating them. So how much do we reveal? Why we might avoid it as creators is that we don't want to reveal the best parts yet, or we're at the beginning of the story, or we have a mean plot twist we aren't ready to share. This and many other reasons. But a strong pitch or description of your comic avoids most of these issues. This is why a lot of comic creators have what's called a hook. I do not think I personally have one of these. I don't think. But why we may consider spoiling on the subject of a hook. It could be considered a spoiler, but not a true spoiler, I guess you could say. A hook is a reveal, true, but it is exactly what it says on the tin. It's supposed to hook you, the reader. It's the reveal or highlight that kicks a story into gear. Sometimes it's within the first few pages, sometimes it's part of the description, like, oops, I fell into a time portal and now I'm the princess and the prince hates me? That's like, I don't even know what you would call that kind of title. Maybe it's part of the hook. It's part of the draw to the story that you have that kind of like hook. This is like kind of not the case for every webcomic. Not every webcomic is going to tell you in one paragraph what the premise is, which is kind of like a trend that's been going on. That's the kind of hook that happens sometimes. But sometimes it's part of the description, but it's not always the main event. The moments before or after that are the real story. So it's more like oh shit, this is kind of a splash page with a big reveal of the main character getting stabbed in the chest and falling out of a building, right? So how did we get here, or what happens after this? That's the true story. The hook is the character being stabbed and like defenestrating out of third story building or something. So how do we get here, or what happens after this? That's kind of like what you want to lead up to, and you want to make sure that you follow through on the story after the hook. But it's not a true spoiler because you're intentionally spoiling a premise to get to the actual story, like the rest of it. You know what I mean? So it's a balancing act, but it's a great tool in your repertoire that you can utilize to great effect. You of course can always reveal however much you choose to, but I will say that it won't serve you to try and confuse your reader. You don't want to mask too many things in mystery because then you're just gonna like annoy your reader and they're not gonna stay on board with you. It won't serve you. You don't have to misdirect them to throw them off your trail. Or if they're saying, oh, I think this will happen, and they're right, don't try to change it mid-story. It means you're doing something right and that they're like enjoying the story along with you. So like if they're predicting something that's accurate, don't try to misdirect them and be like, oh no, this didn't happen the whole time, it was actually this, ha, gotcha. Like your story is not an opportunity to have a ton of gotcha moments, you know. It's your opportunity to tell the story like it is. You don't have to spoil it. And you don't have to misdirect or confuse your audience just to like say that no, this, you're spoiling it for yourself. Like that, how is that a thing until you like, you know, have it out there and uploaded? But what if, you may ask, what if your latest page is up and it's a spoiler? So and so is revealed to be the villain, or Mac the main character dies on this page. We're in deep. How do we go back? Honestly, it's fine. It's fine. If you have a reveal on your latest page, you happen to get some new readers, and if they like what they see, they're gonna get curious and read up to it. They're gonna go back to the beginning like, whoa, how do we get here? Like I said before, how do we get here? Or what happens after this, right? So worst or best case scenario, they'll forget what the last page contains till they catch up. And then when they're finally up to it, they'll be like, oh, that's why this is this way. Or, oh, that's why this villain is, like, they were in the background the whole time. And it's actually a cool little layer that they can go back and be like, oh, this makes sense. This is why Mac, the main character, is dead now. Maybe Mac, the main character, he had it coming. Who knows? You know, like, there's a whole bunch of things that you should worry about, but I don't think spoilers is one of them for your webcomic, especially if you're doing a long form one, because you're going to have a lot of story beats that are reveals, and that's just going to be natural for your story. Don't worry too much about spoiling it too much, unless you just sit someone down and tell you your whole story without having drawn it at all. You'll just have told them the story, and at that point you could just, I don't know, like write a novel or keep it in your brain for the rest of your life. I don't know. But after all, is it really a spoiler if they don't actually know enough context for it to be a spoiler? I don't know. Let me know what you think. How much do you reveal of your comic? Do you just keep it to the description and that's it? Do you talk amongst your friends about your characters and what they like? Because, you know, you could always put extra things on the side, like mini comics on the side that'll give extra context that are not necessarily spoilers. But like I said, it's a fine balancing act, and I'm interested in knowing what you guys think about this because it's a thing, you know, like sometimes I kind of think about it like, oh, I have an answer for this, but I don't reveal too much because the implications of revealing this means this might be like an unintentional spoiler if somebody is actively reading my comic. But then again, I'm like, does it even really matter? Will they even remember what I just said 2 minutes ago about this character that might or might not be a reveal? I'm not gonna drive myself crazy over that kind of thing, but who knows, you know, like, it's all up to you and it's all up to the creator how much they want to reveal. So, I'll talk to you guys later. Take care. Bye-bye.